Now, in this webinar, we will be effectively discovering how 5G and ARVR is empowering the Industry 4.0 revolution across the manufacturing and logistics industries. We will also learn about the current Industry 4.0 technologies that's being implemented, such as some of the buzzwords like digital twins, and explore how you can transform some of the possible factories or outlets that you have into smart facilities. And we will hear from industry experts and users on some of the use cases and the successful shifts. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Dr. Alpesh Patel. He is the Vice President of Smart Factory Technology Innovation Group, in short HMGICS, short for Hyundai Motor Group Innovation Center in Singapore, the group's test bed and first global open innovation hub to intelligent manufacturing innovation for a mobility paradigm shift through advanced mobility solutions as well as the value chain innovation. Now, you might have noticed in the news just exactly about a month ago, if I remember correctly, there was news of the world's first built-to-order EV factory in Singapore among new projects. And this is actually a partnership with IMDA as well. I was reading about robots on the factory floor, seamless real-time data, and I was absolutely astonished. I believe Dr. Alpesh Patel will be able to tell you more about this as well. So before joining Hyundai, Alpesh was actually one of the core Industry 4.0 leaders in Asia for McKinsey and Company, leading their digital capability centers in APAC. Now, one of the very, very interesting work experiences that Dr. Alpesh Patel has is that in 2011, Alpesh actually worked for Ferrari's Formula One team for 7 years. Very, very interesting. As a senior aerodynamicist, he developed the key areas of the car and helped transfer knowledge to the road car product development division. Sharing with us more on the 5G-enabled EV factory, let's welcome Dr. Alpesh Patel. Dr. Patel, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shingo, and thank you very much, everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. It's a pleasure, of course, to be participating to this webinar. And I'll be talking in the next 20-25 minutes about some of the efforts we have undertaken in applying some of the Industry 4.0 technologies and how 5G has been leveraged for it. Let me share my screen and then we get started with the presentation. And I move into presentation mode. I hope that everyone can see the screen clearly. Just shout if it's not the case. Perfect. All right. So let's get going. And I've structured this presentation in a few parts, starting a little bit from, well, why is this all relevant? Why are we talking about 5G-enabled manufacturing in the first place? Basically, the idea is I want to introduce a little bit what is the context for it. Why is the automotive industry talking about something like that at all? Number two, what has resulted into the creation of HMGICS as a digital transformation living lab here in Singapore. And then we can go into a couple of the 5G smart manufacturing use cases we've started to apply over here. We are actually starting the production of the first 100 Hyundai Ioniq 5 in the coming days, which will be which will have a very specific car plate, a collector car plate, as they are the first cars manufactured in Singapore. So let's start with why are we doing this in the automotive sector? We see basically four major shifts that is putting our industry in a very, very dynamic state, which probably it hasn't seen since the last 50 or even more, probably 75 to 100 years. And those four trends basically relate to, number one, changes in the way people are consuming mobility. And because of urbanization, more and more people are shifting for full-blown car ownership to car sharing. And well, I'll talk a little bit about the consequences from that, but everyone knows, of course, about Grab by now. And there are plenty of other companies proposing car sharing services that are coming into play. Grab is of course on demand car sharing services, but there's Blue SG and others. Second, the electrification. which is driven by the need for the world to decarbonize and to meet basically the Paris Agreement. And therefore, countries have drawn their net zero roadmap with 20% of emissions coming from the transportation sector. It is clear that the answer lies into electrification, maybe together with other different modes of propulsion, but a large part of the automotive park will need to be battery electric vehicles. And therefore, that's a major, major trend that is not going to stop. The third one is consumer related. With the advent of smart mobile devices since the last 15 years, people have more and more the ability to go with their own personal device, personal apps, etc., while working, while going for leisure and what have you. And this experience needs to seamlessly transit to when they are in the car. And therefore, network connected vehicle is very critical. It starts with the functionalities of the car itself, such as the abilities to pay your car park, ability to find the right EV charger around yourself, and so on and so forth. But it also needs to be a seamless experience with whatever applications you enjoy in the everyday life outside of the car. So connected is very, very critical. It transforms automotive companies really in software companies. And finally, autonomous. Autonomous vehicles are, fully autonomous vehicles are still far away, but some form of autonomy is already being seen on the cars today. You can actually, we will produce by the end of the year what we call the Robotaxi, which is an autonomous version of the Ioniq 5 for the US market, for low density areas in Nevada. So this is definitely a reality that will slowly come and permeate into the into more densely populated regions. And it provides more safety. It also frees up time to do other things in the car. So those four elements, what do they mean for car manufacturers? In our view, they mean that we're going to move from an ownership to really purpose-based driving. So cars will serve different purpose. Some cars that might serve as an environment where you work, a working space. Some cars might serve as a leisure space. Some cars might serve as driving pleasure, and so on and so forth. So all vehicles will need to be purpose-built, and ownership might be fractioned. What is the implication of that on manufacturing? We will need to adapt our production methods to what they are today. Today, most of the big automotive manufacturing plants produce hundred thousands of cars, typically a single SKU on one line with conveyor belts, very inflexible. If we are moving to purpose-built vehicles and purpose-built vehicle fleets, we need each SKU to be different from the next. So we need to move from highly inflexible manufacturing to super flexible one, and while continuing to embrace the move towards automation. So that basically is at the start, at the essence of the creation of HMGX, the Hyundai Motor Group Innovation Center in Singapore. The whole idea of HMGX has been to establish itself in Singapore as a space for innovating both smart manufacturing technology, and as I said, because we are moving from inflexible manufacturing large scale to flexible, potentially very low scale batch size of one type of manufacturing, but we want to keep the same, if not increase actually the level of automation. Therefore, the factory needs to be very, very, very smart, embark far more AI, far more robotics, far more instrumentation and IoT in order to be fully enabled and to be able to keep the type of speed and throughput that the existing factories are able to have. The second key element for HMGX is also to be a smart mobility development environment, i.e. we not only want to innovate our manufacturing systems, but also be the space where smart mobility solutions are developed and tested on a unique market which is Singapore. And we don't want to do this alone. We want to do this in an open innovation ecosystem, collaborating with the government, IMD amongst others, the industry, as well as the academia. If we look into what is our manufacturing platform and basically the testbed, what we are envisioning is for that platform to have 5 core characteristics. We need to be customer focused, as I've highlighted. We are going to have to produce very small quantity batch production. It's literally the consumer orders a car, the car gets produced and is available to him directly. And that car is personalized for a certain type of purpose. Even if we're talking about fleets for the Grabs of the world, they will need to diversify their fleet depending on the type of usage, and therefore will need to do very small batches. We need to ensure that this is human-centric, so a safe manufacturing environment with a high level of automation. Today, assembly tasks in any automotive plant are around 20 to 30% automated. We want to move to 70+% and keep very high value jobs available to the workforce in Singapore. The open innovation I've mentioned, and we want, of course, this to be eco-friendly, i.e. we're thinking about circularity. It's not only about production of cars, but we need to do this in a carbon neutral way, as well as thinking about what do we do at the end of life of the vehicle, and in particular, the end of life of the battery. To do all of this, we need a virtual physical system, data governed, in order to maximize the operational efficiency, not only in the manufacturing part, but all along the value chain. And that's exemplified on the right-hand side, which highlights basically that our aspiration is to be as smart as possible along all the dimensions of operations. What does that mean for the factory? So I will show you a video that maybe will speak louder than all the words that you see on this page about flexibility, automation, etc. And it will also illustrate the type of use cases that we are envisioning in the plant. Before I start the video, I would highlight this plant is not science fiction. A version 1 has been TOP'd a month ago, and production of the Ioniq 5 will start in the coming days. We're doing production testing as we speak. So here it is. All right, so you've seen quite a few use cases in the factory. Not all of them are available today, but as we are starting the production of a single batch of vehicles, the EV Ioniq 5, we've already put in place a high level of automation, as well, both with cell robots as well as mobile robots, and then all the elements that are related to the intelligent factory are being set up. And of course, the whole layout has already been thought in order to enable flexible manufacturing. We will make further progress as more SKUs, more type of SKUs are being produced, with the robot taxi by the end of the year and the Ioniq 6 early next year, before we move to the purpose-built vehicle, whose vision you've seen in the video. Now, what does it take to do that in terms of cyber physical system, and where does 5G come into the play? So we are thinking of this plant as actually not one, but two plants. There is a physical plant, which basically has all, the physical space where I'm sitting, all the robots, all the cells, all the equipment, and the cars. And then we have the virtual plant, the plant's digital twin. It is not only a product digital twin, but that digital twin actually is an exact replica of all the systems that are in the plant. And it's not just there to be seen or to basically look at how each piece would fall into each other when we are building the factory, but is actually there to also replicate in real time what is happening on the ground. So we can see the virtual production, we can see all the virtual operations outside of the factory and all the integrated controls for live monitoring. It starts with visualization, and of course, the visualization not only of what is happening, but also of potential alerts. It would continue with the simulation of what can be a future state of the factory when we add a new vehicle or when we change the layout a little bit. And not only a simulation, but optimization. That's the second part. And the third one, which is our vision, is that once we have both the visualization and simulation, when we integrate both together, we will be able to make this factory as autonomous as possible, i.e., we close the loop, and some of the decisions in terms of, for instance, changing the takt time on the assembly line or automatically reload balance between a couple of cells can be taken automatically without any human interference. We can also directly decide on the right production scheduling based automatically on changes in our forecast of demand. So all of those things is part of what I would say the third horizon, which I call automate and orchestrate. So the digital twin really will have those three functions. As of today, phase one, it's visualization and analytics, and we're starting in the simulation side. 5G is a critical component to establishing our digital twin. And we've been working with Singtel as the main provider. MOUs were signed as early as 2021 and a 5G service agreement in June 2022. And of course, have been leveraging the partnership with IMDA in order to make this a reality. So what are the use cases? When it comes to the factory that exists today, 5G is being used quite extensively in our factory alongside Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6, reasonably high density, can help onto devices such as our fixed robots, but we like to use 5G for our mobile robots. We have a fleet of AGVs and AMRs, automated mobile robots, that are shipping the parts, our bodies in paint, to the respective cells and moving them to the respective cells as the car gets assembled. We also have smaller AMRs that are actually moving pallets of parts to each individual cells. All of that is automated. All of that has a centralized fleet management system. And 5G is a critical component to make it happen with a safe and fast connectivity. We are looking at expanding the use of 5G, not only for in-plant logistics, but also for tracking the material management coming from the depots in PSA. Parts are themselves coming from Korea and from Indonesia to be assembled in Singapore. The second use case relates to the use of augmented reality and virtual reality in manufacturing. We are developing the relevant use cases tailored to our facility, both for easing the workforce instructions. It's actually a completely automated system that would rely on AI to detect the worker's movement and directly analyze that certain steps of the SOP have been completed, and therefore give to the worker the instructions for the subsequent steps. Think that in one assembly cell, there are more than 40 instructions. So it is very critical that we try and apply both AR, AI, and of course, again, 5G connectivity in order to make this a reality. The third use case, which is not yet completed, but when our factory will be officially launched by Q3 of this year, there is a test track on top of it on the fifth floor. So when the cars have been assembled, they get tested on that speedway. It's a small speedway, a bit of a small Indianapolis circuit. We want to be able for the car to send all the relevant diagnosis data back to the plant to make sure that it is all the systems are properly working, ready to go, and it can be delivered to the customer who is waiting in our customer center next to the factory. So the high-speed diagnosis will be a very critical use case that will leverage 5G, of course, along our speedway track on the roof of our factory. We have been able to do this. Our factory, as I said, is not yet officially open, already starting production as we've been able to TOP the production floor. So how did we test all of this? Again, the help of the Singapore government, IMDA and A-STAR has been quite critical. A collaboration with the Advanced Remanufacturing and Technology Center, or ARTC, helped us to test the 5G connectivity of our autonomous moving robots. The big AMR that you see here can carry a whole chassis, and the connectivity tests were carried out in 2022 in ARTC, even before our plant was completed. That has allowed us to cut the time to production, which is going to start, as I said, in the coming days. So 5G is more than a fiction. It's an absolute reality for us. It's an absolute necessity. It really is a cornerstone of the vision that we have for the factory of the future for the Hyundai Motor Group. With that, I thank you for your attention. Of course, I'm happy to answer any question in the chat if this is the right time.
Thank you, Alpesh. Thank you so much for the sharing. It's so exciting to know that the factory roof actually has a speedway. That's quite wow. And of course, we have heard a lot about the industry transformation, the kind of trends that are coming up. And I think the custom built vehicles does have a lot of interest among our participants here as well. So they do have a lot of questions. So we're just going to take it quite briefly over here. So first of all, we do have one from Jasdeep. Jasdeep was asking that, are there any processes or job functions that cannot be automated or digitalized at HMGICS that still require human and manual intervention at the moment?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, absolutely. We cannot automate 100%. As I said, when you think about automotive assembly plants, typically the level of automation is quite low. We've managed to increase it to something around 70%. So that means there is still a 30% that cannot be automated. And these manual cells, again, what you cannot automate, you try to help as much as possible the operator. You try and make his position as comfortable as possible. You try to semi-automate, and you use ARVR to basically provide the right work instructions so that those tasks can be completed in the quickest possible way with the highest level of quality.
Right. So there's about a 30% at the moment, which is with 70% totally autonomous at the moment. So I think that kind of answers Ben C's question of how to apply for the job vacancy for the new factory. I do see some of the posting basically some of the roles that are open on Dr. Alpesh Patel's LinkedIn. Maybe you can look from there as well as search up Hyundai Singapore. And from Wee Liu, he does have another question, which is how is 5G preferred in this case in comparison to something like fiber broadband, for example?
Yeah. So you have a couple of considerations. I think you have fiber. You can have wired connectivity, industrial Ethernet. You have you can have Wi-Fi, which can be provided through basically some fiber broadband, and then you have the 5G. The type of reliability and latency we are getting from 5G is more suitable for mobile robot applications. That is what we've seen, and that's why we want to apply it first for our logistics use cases. But as I'm saying, we are using Wi-Fi 6 in the factory for other use cases as well. The two would coincide, but if you think about it, it's really the mobile robot was something that that was very indicative. We also think to apply, as I said, 5G on the track and 5G for material management outside of the plant. That's where, of course, Wi-Fi cannot help you because it's localized, and you need to be able to leverage. You have a private 5G. We have a private 5G, if you want, frequency. It's not frequency, but a band, which can then be used to basically communicate with any of our devices outside of the factory. So that's something that we want to leverage in the future. We haven't done it yet, but when it comes to smart supply chain, which is part of our vision, we will implement those cases as well.
Thanks for sharing. And I think that also answers KJ Han's question of when to use 5G and Wi-Fi 6. I think outside of the factory floor itself, it naturally becomes 5G for a mobile network to work, to connect to the vehicles, yeah?
That's correct. For outside is very clear, and for inside the factory, the requirements in terms of density and latency will dictate whether you use one or the other. For the mobile robots, that's 5G was the answer for us.
Sure. Thank you so much, Alpesh. And with that, I think we are down to our final two questions. Let's try to clear them first. So one of them from Eileen was saying that how can Singapore-based startups engage with a team to share their capabilities to see that they might be useful? For example, in Eileen's case, they do offer predictive maintenance to manufacturers around the world.
So it is very simple. You can contact us directly. Our LinkedIn profiles are there to be seen, and we actually look forward to working together with startups whenever they have a unique value proposition that that can suit our needs. I'm not going to give name now, but we are working with a few startups, of course, already, both in the digital twin as well as other spaces. So absolutely open to do that. Typically, you reach out. There's also we have a CVC arm called Hyundai Cradle that has also been established in Singapore. They typically scout for startups too, so you could also contact them, and then it comes to us. Whichever way is good.
Right. Thank you so much. And I'm not too sure, Alpesh, if it's convenient for you to take this one, but there was a question from Gilda saying that just a question on what suppliers are you using for the AR and VR use cases? You might be talking platform as well.
I will release the answer for this when we launch the factory. There will be a grand opening in September, so you might need to wait a little bit longer.
No problem. So at the same time, just follow, and of course continue to follow HMJIX to see the updates right at the Q3 and Q4 of this year, towards the ending of this year. Thank you so much, Alpesh. Thanks for sharing.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we all learned a little bit more about the possibilities of 5G use cases, especially on when you have autonomous robots. And of course, in Hyundai's case, it would be on the side of automotive manufacturing. But of course, there are a lot more use cases, a lot more possibilities in 5G as well. And with that, we're going to move on to our next speaker. We do have Yuan Yi. So Yuan Yi is the co-founder and Chief Operating Officer, in short, COO of HyverLab. She has 8 years of experience in helping MNCs globally in their digital transformation journey with emerging tech. So she does have a background in technology entrepreneurship, public policy, philosophy, and cognitive science, just a few to name. So she is actually a believer in multidisciplinary approach, stakeholder management, and partnership collaboration in driving digital transformation for a sustainable future. And for HyverLab, just to give a quick introduction, their aim is actually to drive this digital transformation with emerging technologies to redefine human-machine interactions for a transparent world. And today, they will be sharing about HyverLab's learning points since 2019 and on the topic of 5G digital twins for facility management. I'm going to hand the time over to Yuan Yi. Hi, Yuan Yi.
Hey, thanks, Ching Hong. I hope everybody can hear me and also see the slides up here on the screen.
Yes, loud and clear from space.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we're breaking the boundaries of space and time, right? So it doesn't really matter where I am. So these, for our talk, we'll be talking about serving the 5G wave, our journey so far. So for HyverLab, we were founded in 2014, and we have been playing around with 5G and test out different kind of use cases since 2019. A couple of those highlights I want to share today is with a specific focus on facility management. A quick introduction of our company. So HyverLab was founded in 2014. We are just into the 10th year of our business operations. And what we are trying to do is to empower organizations around the world to go through their digital transformation, set up digital infrastructures with emerging technologies. Most of our use cases are in the areas of training, communication, and operations. And we provide particularly B2B enterprise solutions most of the time. The different kind of technologies that we work with, we play with, include immersive tech. Some of those are cloud computing, data analytics, AI, machine learning, spatial digital twin, and also recently with the 5G solutions to piece different kind of technologies together, right? So over the years, we have worked with a lot of companies. We are also quite fortunate to gain the support from various industry players such as Microsoft, Meta, NVIDIA, Samsung, etc. And we got covered in various types of media. I think one interesting thing, which a lot of audience today probably have observed in the past, is that technology has always been changing very fast, and the buzzword also constantly change. I think for HyverLab, we've kind of like we've been witnessing the buzzwords change from digital transformation to immersive tech, and then the digital twins, metaverse, Web 3.0, and recently you have the AI GCs, etc. And it's almost like you've got to cover all of those buzzwords to give yourself a trophy. But I think at the same time, immersive tech, all of those changes within a short period of 1 decade is also just a tiny fraction of the overall media technology evolution. Right. So although it seems to be changing all the time, this is not the end of media evolution. We've come a long way, and there's still a long way to go. So it's always interesting to look into the kind of problem statements you have in the world and see what you can do with the most recent technologies you have in mind. For us, the kind of approach we take is that we don't particularly follow the buzzwords. What we trying to do is really to look into the problem statements and see what we can do to solve some of those problems. And of course, at this point in time, in these few years, the kind of tech you will be hearing would be IoT big data, where data can be constantly generated, collected. Then a lot of companies are going through cloud computing. Some of their digital transformation involve cloud computing and edge computing. Also, APIs and open standards would allow different kind of systems to be integrated together, so you can have better connections, less silos across different systems, and you will increasingly have more and more connected hardware as well. All of these would allow you to be able to perform more AI and machine learning. Of course, at this point in time, you would still need human intervention at this stage. Right. And also, because all of these things are going up to the cloud, and you will likely need to distribute it to the end devices, 5G and Wi-Fi 6E would be the broader bandwidth that allows you to transmit the data at high speed and low latency. So all of these things are happening or have been going on for quite some time already. How we are looking into immersive tech is to pretty much consider it as an interface between humans, as well as all of those abstract things going on at the back end. I think this message is something we've been trying to convey to the audience for years, but it seems to be quite abstract. Not everybody gets the idea of setting up an interface for human to human, human to machine, and machine to machine collaborations. But recently, with the rise of large language models, the ChatGPT, for example, a lot of people start to kind of like get the sense, because you feel a bit panicked that, okay, now the machines seem to be able to handle a lot of things. What is the role of human beings, right? For us, models are never holistic. You will always, any explanations you're looking to is only explaining certain parts of the phenomena you're interested in. So the kind of models you pick, the phenomena you choose, highly depend on your own practical purposes. There's hardly a very holistic model that you can use. So it's quite important, quite essential for human beings to be there and look at things from different perspectives, which are usually overlooked by existing frameworks. So there's a need to constantly develop new frameworks and constantly intervene or mediate the automation process. And I think that is the kind of role we can actually look into, push the human beings to the higher, the upper stream of the value chain, and make us more human in a sense. So today's focus is actually about 5G. And for Hyper Lab, we started this whole 5G exploration journey since 2019. Right, so over here I've put up a timeline. I think the first 1 or 2 years we've been working with the telcos and test out different kind of solutions, including the spatial digital twins, AR broadcasting, 360-degree live streaming. And starting from 2021, that's where we started to work on some of those commercial 5G projects. So today I'll be briefly sharing 2 commercial 5G projects, including one in the maritime facility management manufacturing, and also another one in supply chain and logistics. Of course, currently we are also working on more commercial 5G projects and testing out more things in our lab. Some of those things would involve the large-scale hybrid reality kind of built environments, and also we are also looking into deploying some of our massive IT and automation solutions where you can communicate with machines and have bidirectional controls in your workplace, and also Edge AI. So in the next couple of slides, I'll be talking about some of our learning points, in a chronological order, of course. Now, over here, this is one of the things that we have tested during the initial testing phase in the first 2 years. This is the spatial digital twin, and we are looking to, we've been looking into putting it up into the cloud, so you have a cloud-native digital twin architecture. I'll just let the video play, and you guys can have a sense of what this kind of solution is all about. Right, so in this digital twin project, there are several modules that we have tested. The first one is the live update of the 3D models. So when a designer, 3D engineer, for example, changes the layout of a particular facility, we will allow a worker who's on site viewing these latest layouts through immersive tech to be able to understand the live updates. So with 5G, we're actually able to achieve a seamless kind of streaming of these kind of assets to the mobile devices on site or remotely and empower better collaborations. Also things such as IoT tracking, some of those IoT sensors we have tested. So you can basically you are basically able to basically track a lot of different kind of moving objects within the facilities, right? And also certain things we tested include the edge-based AI video analytics. So this is the initial testing of digital twins, and some of those learning points were applied later on in the commercial 5G digital twin projects. The second thing that we have tested is augmented reality broadcasting and streaming. So although these particular case studies I'm showing over here is not really an Industry 4.0 related case, I think for us, the important thing is that the things we have tested out is technology, is the kind of streaming protocols for 3D model streaming and also the video, video transmission. And those things are neutral or agnostic when it comes to the use cases. And in fact, what we have learned in these early testing case was currently applied in some of those 5G use cases in the industrial space. So in this video here, you will see how we map the virtual space and being able to stream down 3D models or media assets to the on-site space in real time, and also then transmit the video back to users who are based remotely. Oh, sorry, that's not audio. Right, yeah. So as I mentioned before I play this video, I think the key lesson we learned from this project is basically the right way to configure the streaming protocols for the 3D models to stream into the virtual space, the live space, the physical space, as well as the kind of ways to distribute the media to multiple remote devices on the 5G network. Another testing case over here is essentially about 360-degree live streaming, which was a quite popular concept when 5G first started. A lot of people were talking about this, right? So we tested a live streaming with the 360-degree camera. So I think some of those learning points over here from this project is number one, to consider why you would need 5G instead of the cable connections. So I think early on in the previous session, one of the audience asked, sometimes what's the value of 5G network over the cable connections. Specifically in this case, I think one thing we explored was to have the mobile camera angle. So if you have a static camera angle, then yes, maybe you can set up a cable connection, but sometimes these kind of camera angles need to be shifted along the way, right? Another thing, another point you learn from this kind of project is to look into 5G not just from the uplink perspective. So yes, maybe you have a space, let's say you are actually streaming out a 360-degree live streaming from a facility that is already powered by 5G network, but you also need to consider for your end audience, are they facing any platform limitations or network limitations? So even if you are able to stream things up to the server, if your end users who are based remotely are not ready to receive this kind of feed, then there's a gap in delivering a full solution at this point in time. So how these type of solutions is related to the Industry 4.0 use case is during COVID, there are use cases where our customers ask for remote audit because maybe their customers are not able to visit their manufacturing plants to check out the space, and they were thinking of using 360-degree video to conduct the remote audit for their users. And over here, these are some of the use cases we have tested, and we have identified the gaps, and then also you need to kind of like bring a fallback on some kind of solution that is more feasible for the end users to have a seamless experience in terms of conducting the site visit and site audit. So a couple of key takeaways during the first couple of years of testing is that well, I mean, first of all, I've mentioned some points just now under each of the case studies, but I think it's quite essential for, if anyone here is interested in adopting 5G solutions, it's quite essential to look into, test out your use cases, try out different kind of solution architecture, understand their pros and cons, the trade-offs of different kind of solution architecture. Look for the right hardware options, because maybe not all hardware options you have in hand are actually 5G compatible. So you've got to test out what kind of hardware is the most optimal based on your own use case. So you can test it out as much as possible with your partners, right? And in terms of the testing facilities, there are sites, labs available. So the telcos themselves have their own labs, and IMDA Pixel also have a 5G living lab where you can test things out. And really, as a testing phase, I think it's the time for you to enjoy the trials and errors. It's okay to make mistakes. I think that's a very natural thing when you're looking into innovations. Now, fast forward a little bit into the commercial 5G projects that we have been working on in the past 2 years specifically. One of the projects here is a collaboration with Keppel, where we are looking to digitizing their shipyard with a 5G network. So there's a digital twin there in the command center. The user is able to use the digital twin to have the data streaming coming in over 5G network and understand the live status of some of their mission critical equipments. When it comes to the construction, the user is able to map the 3D layout, the target 3D layout at the exact location where they're building the infrastructure, so you can have an on-site walkthrough to understand whether things have been built up properly, and you can conduct your site verification. And after the site goes live, of course, you can monitor your mission critical equipments, and for the engineers who need to maintain this kind of equipment, conduct regular maintenance, regular checks of the equipment, they don't have to always climb up these let's say the cranes, right? You don't have to keep wasting time climbing up and down, and also have expose themselves to safety hazards. They can pretty much look into having the data streaming while they are based on the ground through the smart glasses, and post that. After that, they will be able to identify whether it's really needed for them to go up to the crane and fix certain machines. We also have this multi-user collaboration module in this digital twin, so that in any case, they are not very sure how to fix certain problems with their machines. They can launch a video call with the workers who are either based in the command center or maybe based in a different place, even different countries. Sometimes the engineers could be based in different places, so they can initiate these kind of communications with each other to achieve more efficient site management and monitoring. So I've mentioned a couple of use cases over here, and we also have a video from Channel News Asia. I think it's quite self-explanatory. I'll just play it over here.
Smart glasses that can identify key data in a shipyard's equipment, and holographic displays of 3D organs and scans to help surgeons in the operating theatre. These are among new 5G projects which the Infocom Media Development Authority is investing in to quickly scale solutions under an existing $30 million fund. Heidi Ng with more.
These 5G glasses see it all. They capture and stream data about this shipyard's equipment to the command center, where a team responds and communicates immediately with the engineer on site.
This pair of smart glasses helps me to visualize the real-time data of that crane's operations. This helps those on the ground to make timely decisions of its lifting capacity, and it also reduces the frequency that the maintenance teams have to go up the crane.
Keppel O&M introduced the glasses during the pandemic when physical site inspections were disrupted. It worked with M1 to implement its own dedicated 5G network to ensure its data is secure and its operations can run reliably.
All these use cases are really feedbacks from the ground. All right, we kind of recognize that the current process is very labor intensive, very manual, and therefore there's a drive to leverage on this 5G technology to make the process more efficient.
The company plans to roll out the smart glasses across its yard's operations by the third quarter of next year. The other two 5G.
Yep. So this is the a quick video clip from the media talking about the 5G shipyard digital twin and smart glass use case. I think the key value proposition we're looking at over here is really from the angles of efficiency as well as safety. And I think two very specific learning points I'd like to mention over here is also number one, when it comes to this smart glass connection with 5G, I think initially industry-wide, people weren't quite sure how mixed reality glasses would function on the 5G network, because technically speaking, the glass itself doesn't really have the 5G chip to be connected into the 5G network directly. We've tested a tethered connection. That means tether this device into an external device that is able to receive the 5G network, and the performance difference is significant. It's like instantly you're able to load certain heavy information which were not previously able to be loaded on the device. So that has been tested and verified, which I think is a good achievement from this project. And another one was when you're looking into your own 5G projects, maybe it's important to look into the metal structures, because sometimes maybe the signals is something that you need to watch out for. So it's important to work with the telcos and come up with the right configuration, the right planning to place the radio dots. Okay, and another case studies over here is also based on a digital twin project in the supply chain and logistics sector. So these projects would particularly look into from the design stage, you can look into the 3D visualization of your facilities, and after the site goes live, you can then use the same 3D models together with the data for live monitoring. And when it comes to operations, actually monitoring is one aspect of it. You can also use this for training, you can also use this for simulations, and with all of those things, you can now make use of digital twin to achieve. You can then look into constant improvement of your facilities. Some of those things we are which are specifically of value for this project is number one, the tapping on the 5G network. You are able to stream these interfaces into multiple mobile devices. So conventionally, before we have the 5G implementation, maybe there were only like 5 people or so who are able to use this device on premise. But with the 5G network and that dedicated bandwidth, we can now scale it up to a lot more users, right? And also things like constant changes of the layout. We have developed functions which allows the digital twin to adapt to the constant layout changes in the DT, and also not just within the facility. Sometimes when we talk about Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0, people are talking about extended warehouse, smart factoring being extended into the warehouses, or the warehouse logistics companies looking into their whole operations being extended to the factories itself. So when we look into the whole digital twin process, how you can use digital twin to improve the efficiency or improve the connectedness of the facilities, you can actually look into not just what happens within your facility, but also what goes beyond your facilities. So those are interesting features that you might want to consider. A couple of important takeaways during these commercial projects implementation is that I think that, again, during those case studies, I've mentioned a few tips. I think stakeholder engagement and user research is quite essential across all those kind of projects, because it doesn't make sense to develop solutions just for the sake of using new technology. The people and the process still comes first, right? So you have to get the stakeholders buying, understand what are their pain points, and give them the solutions which are really suitable for them. And really, some of those problem statements you see in the market today are not able to be solved within emerging tech. So in that case, you don't have to do a hard sales, because if it's not the right solution, you don't have to go for that. You can wait for future technologies and then develop the solutions to address such problem statements. It's important to look into proper calculation for your network requirements. So usually the telcos will work with you and calculate the uplink and downlink all together. One thing to look into is to watch out for the provisional cases you may want to have in the future, so that when you set up this infra, you will also be future oriented in a sense. Aside from those two projects, we are also currently working on other projects. This is where I want to mention the overall rise of Industry 5.0, in a sense that the human-machine interaction becomes something that is a little bit more emphasized as compared to Industry 4.0. Right, so with 5G, we can look into large-scale hybrid work environments and look into the deployment of massive IoTs, automation systems within a facility. So these projects over here, this GIF on the left-hand side is not actually a 5G project, but then we are currently working on some projects which are augmenting Singapore, different facilities with some interesting hybrid reality experiences. And the one on the right-hand side is something that is now ready to be deployed to the facilities on the 5G network. So I've mentioned a couple of different kind of testing cases and learning points, tips we've learned in the past few years. I think what we're constantly trying to do is to also look into democratizing the solutions, because it doesn't make sense that technologies forever have a high entry barrier that everybody have to keep engaging a vendor to customize solutions for everybody. I think it's important to bring down the barriers so everybody can have a foot step into these emerging tech solutions. So for HiverLab, what we've been trying to do is to develop products that allows users to have easy access to emerging tech. And one of them here is Spatial Work, which is essentially a platform, a product that allows you to create your digital twin, spatial digital twins easily. You can change the 3D layout and adding the data points. So I've almost reached the end of my sharing session. I'm just providing a couple of more resources over here. So if you want to read up more about the current commercial 5G projects happening in Singapore, the first two posts here are the news articles from Channel News Asia. And we've also recently been invited by Ericsson to have this podcast together with Rockwell to talk about the Industry 4.0 automation on the 5G network. So our founder, HiverLab, who is one of the speakers, one of the panelists, if you're interested, just take a screenshot over here and I think you can proceed to listen to this podcast later on. Final thoughts, I think we should still watch out for some inconsistency in the 5G readiness in different areas. You may have crazy ideas, but sometimes it's not feasible to deploy it. It may not be feasible to deploy it, right? You have to take into considerations of your end users' readiness to adopt 5G. Cybersecurity is still critical. Watch out to the latest trends. And some of those things you have been doing in the past in the digital transformation still needs to be done as of today. But be open to crazy ideas, because who knows, maybe 5G is not ready to help you fulfill some of the crazy ideas today, but that gives us a reason to look forward to 6G. And certain approaches you might want to take into consideration to cope the constant changes in tech is, first of all, I've mentioned people and the process are still quite essential. Technology comes slightly later after that. Look into problem statement first, look into holistic solutions, and be ready to collaborate with ecosystem partners. And if you want to invite HiverLab to your ecosystem, please do feel free to drop us a text, email after this, and I'll be happy to have a chat. Yeah, thank you. And I hope some of those points we've mentioned today are useful in a way or another.
Thank you very much, Renyi. Thanks for the sharing. Very, very in-depth with a lot of use cases. I'm sure it's quite a bit to digest as well. And we do have some of our participants coming in with some of the questions. So I thought we could answer some of them to guide them along as well. So one question from Wee Liu is that how does a 5G phone blend into those use cases that you have described? I think there's quite a bit of use cases, but I think what he's trying to say is that with just layman equipment as we do have, like a phone in our pockets, how can we access these technologies that has been put forth earlier in the use cases?
Yeah, sure.
How do we utilize? Yeah.
I think in this case, let me just go back to maybe this slide over here. You can take a look at the top left corner here. This is the end user. So we are trying to stream the digital twin for monitoring and simulation, etc., to the end users, right? So 5G phones, 5G devices, or 5G tablets are the device that you can use to receive this kind of stream constantly from 5G network. So in a sense, it is a device your end users can use to interface with your digital twins or metaverses. Some other use cases is when you're on site, if you want to, if you're on site, of course, this clip over here is mixed reality device based, but these visuals can actually also be done using a smartphone. So in a sense, on-site augmented reality experiences, right? We do have users who prefer to have both hands to be available to conduct some kind of tasks. So that's why sometimes they favor to use the goggles. But there are also users who prefer to actually deploy this kind of augmented reality devices, that is tablets or 5G phones, to their end users, so that they have a relatively less steep kind of learning curve for them to go through, because they're already familiar with these kind of tablet user interfaces. So for that, if you look at this visual here, this is actually a recording from our spatial work product, augmented reality version. So you can use a PC to plan out, let's say, the routes of your robots, and then when you are on site with the augmented reality devices, you are able to understand the real life status of the robots, and you can do configurations if your whole automation pipeline is compatible with this kind of overall architecture. So
right.
Yeah, so I think these are. Out of my mind, the kind of relevant ways how 5G phones are used, if I were to answer Willio's question over here.
Right. I think it's perfectly answered. Thank you so much. Which means that there is actually a possibility of mobile to access the data on perhaps on another interface, or an interface that looks a little bit different as compared to someone with, say, mixed reality goggles for that matter, right? So yeah. So that's wonderful. And of course, on certain applications, I'm sure that we do have to use other equipment, such as like your mixed reality goggles, maybe on the side of HoloLens, because Gildas was asking if you could perhaps explain or share how you actually tethered HoloLens 2 to the device to provide 5G into the device.
So as mentioned earlier, HoloLens itself actually doesn't have the 5G chip to be connected to 5G internet directly. What we did is to have a tethered connection. HoloLens itself has this USB-C slot, so you're able to connect this to a 5G device. In our case, we tested like 5G phone, 5G tablets that is able to then process the 5G internet, right? So essentially, for that program, so earlier I mentioned we have this kind of a function where we need to load very heavy assets into the model. When we connect the HoloLens through 4G network, it doesn't load. When we connect this to a hotspot from a 5G device, it doesn't work. But when we tethered the 5G device up to the HoloLens, instantly the things we needed to load is really load instantly, and that was quite an interesting moment for us. We've actually also done the speed test, and we have the numbers in our notes, but I don't have it over here at my fingertip. But just to answer Gilda's question, I think we've tested various scenarios, and when the HoloLens 2 is tethered with a 5G device and the 5G device gets connected to the network, what was expected to work, I think the kind of like value proposition in this use case really worked. So that was one of the learning points we got from this project.
Right, definitely. It shows that 5G is viable in this sense, in communicating the data that you guys want as well. Wonderful, wonderful. And may I say that I'm a huge fan of the Jewel Changi graphics that you're showing right here with the dinosaurs. I feel like they envisioned that but left that part out because it wasn't physically possible. But through the mixed reality, is this coming to life anytime soon? Just a personal question here.
Well, so this project, as I mentioned just now in the presentation, this project is live. It's not on the 5G network because these kind of large scale augmented experiences currently under the 5G networks. As far as I know, under the 5G network, live ones are not available. But we are currently working on projects which are similar to this, so you can stay tuned and waiting for some of those live projects going live very soon.
Definitely. I think there's a lot of aspect, and thanks for sharing all the use cases across the different industries, from facilities management, maintenance, from construction to port authorities to even like media streaming. Those are really, really interesting in different use cases. Thank you, Yuan Yi. And of course, I'm sure a lot of our participants still have some questions for you, or might want to ask you some questions that are more tailored to their particular industries of business. So I'm suggesting that they connect with you via LinkedIn. Is that comfortable with you, Yuan Yi?
Yeah, LinkedIn is fine. Also, you can drop us the email at ask@arvr.com. hyperlab.com.
Okay, sure. No problem. So guys, just search out HyperLab, and of course, they might be able to answer some of your questions about implementation, because everybody's case is different and your requirements are also different. So maybe you can talk to Yuan Yi regarding that. Thank you so much, Yuan Yi. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And of course, with that in mind, right, I know when it comes to implementation of different digital tools, including like 5G, it does stress a little bit on the different resources that people keep thinking about, right? Am I able to test this effectively? Am I able to get some grants for this? And this is where exactly IMDA comes in to help hold the hands of you to walk you along this digital journey. So as with tradition for all our IMDA webinars, we are going to invite our representative from IMDA Pixel, Janice, to share more about the resources on IMDA innovation and how IMDA can be part of your corporate journey. Let's welcome Janice. Hi, Janice.
Hello, thanks, Sing Hong.
Thank you.
So I'll just very quickly wrap up today's session. Not all of you guys might be familiar with who IMD Pixel is and what we do. So I'll just run through this really quickly. We are actually for those of you who are unfamiliar with us, we are an innovation hub over at One North, and our mission is really to help the industry learn about the latest tech and then work on innovative projects with the corporates and the startups. And we do this through two ways. So I'll share a little bit more about our innovation space. We focus a lot on technologies such as ARVR, AI. We are one of the 4 open 5G test beds in Singapore, and that's where HyperLab also came in to make use of our labs to do some of their testing. And over the years, we are also an incubation space for startups. So a lot of the specialized labs, such as our UI UX lab or ARVR lab, actually comes in quite handy for corporates and startups who want to access some of these specialized equipment like your headsets. And beyond that, I think a lot of corporates start to think about what do some of these new technology areas mean for me. So we work with our consultants to help corporates think about, hey, what's some of the use case in my organization? What are some of the roadblocks I might face? How can I build a technology roadmap for myself? So if you are keen to explore how you can adopt such technologies, do come and speak with us as well. And we've been here at One North since 2016. So we have built up quite a sizable community of AR/VR startups, AI, and do come and join us for some of our physical events, because that's where you also get to network with the community, meet some of the startups that can really help you to think about how to solve all these innovative problems. And other than our physical events, we continue to run monthly webinars where we bring you the latest information on what are some of the very transformative projects out there. So keep a lookout for these sessions as well. And I think one of the more unique platforms that we run is called the Open Innovation Platform. So this is where corporates who have very interesting challenges and they want to look for technology companies to solve those challenges for them. That's where they put up the Open Innovation Platform. And this is also a platform where technology solvers can respond to some of these challenges and create these POCs with some of the large corporates that you see here on screen. So all the way from people like Visa to even our local zoo, Mandai, they have thrown out very innovative problem statements out there, and some of our local technology companies have responded to them as well. So the last thing I just want to share is, I think 3 things. If you don't remember everything that I've said so far, just remember 3 things. One is we can help to actually support you with defining what's your AR/VR use case. The second part is connecting you with our startups who are able to develop solutions. And the third one is providing a physical space for you to test and experiment and develop what you have in mind for your company. So today's presentation focused a lot on 5G. So I will let my colleague Valerie share a bit more on where IMD's funding actually comes into place.
Yep. Hi. Thanks, Janice. Yeah. So hi, I'm Valerie. Just want to share a bit on the 5G Innovation Grant Program. So basically, this program is aimed at accelerating the adoption and commercialization of 5G solution. And so in this case, we're focused on 5G projects in the area of robotics, AI, AR/VR. And in terms of the requirement for applicants, right, we're looking at a Singapore registered company. The applicant can either be a tech provider or end user company. And funding scope wise will fund up to 70% of the qualifying costs. And in terms of the qualifying component, we will support the following areas such as manpower, hardware, software, materials and ICT services, professional services, and in the event that also that the applicant want to apply for intellectual property, will also support the IP application. And of course, if you want to find out more about this grant and maybe to work together to explore some potential project with us, happy to do that with you, and send us an email to this that we're put up here. Yeah.
Thank you very much,
thanks,
Valerie.
Thanks, Valerie. Yeah. So, Ching Hong, over to you.
Thank you very much, Janice, as well. They are from IMDA Pixel, one of the best places to get started in adopting new technology. So go ahead. And as Valerie and Janice has mentioned earlier, it's not just about 5G. There are a lot of possibilities about your digital journey that IMDA can undertake with you. And of course, citing Yuan Yi's statement earlier, I think it was brilliant. That is to focus on the problem statement and not the buzzwords that's going around. You need to find a solution that works for you, which is why IMDA Pixel is here to support you, not just with the hardware side of things, the grants, as well as they are able to find you some coaches to guide you along the journey as well. So there's like consultations, there are like webinars, there's ways and ways for you to get into the ecosystem. And all you have to do is actually really to sign up for their mailing list and to keep updated with imda.gov.sg. Right, regardless of funding, of projects, of initiatives, and the latest development, IMDA is together here with you. So we thank once again our speakers, Yuan Yi, as well as Dr. Alpesh Patel for sharing. And of course, from something as big as the Hyundai's EV factory to something smaller on a SaaS level that Yuan Yi has proposed earlier, there is solution for every size of company, depending on what you need. So connect with IMDA. And of course, if you did enjoy this session, we do hope that you can leave us some feedback. If you don't mind just scanning the QR code on the screen, I think it just takes about 2 minutes for you to complete it. We really, really welcome your feedback on where we have done well and where we can possibly do even better. Now, there was a question from one of the participants on whether this session's video will actually be uploaded anywhere. So there was a reply earlier, but just in case you missed it, you can actually receive it via email to a web link where you can view this video replay of our entire session earlier as well. Now, my name is Ching Hong, and on behalf of IMDA, we truly thank you for spending your time together with us this afternoon. We hope it has been fruitful, as it has been for many of our previous sessions. Once again, you have just attended IMDA webinar, Powering Industry 4.0 Leaps with 5G. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great week ahead. Thank you.